Members of the Cape Fear Academy community and visiting veterans, welcome to today's Veterans Day ceremony, and thank you for attending. Today, we are here to honor the living and remember the ones who gave all. Beginning 2 years ago, Cape Fear Academy's middle school has put aside our daily routine on November 11th to honor those who have served our country. Our gathering is just one small way we can express our gratitude to these and all veterans who help preserve our liberty and freedom. Today, we have 25 service members here for us to talk to and learn from. With an event like this, we can show them our appreciation, take an opportunity to learn about their experiences, and to see what being an American is all about. We are here to honor these heroes, to remember their achievements, their courage and dedication, and to say thank you for the sacrifices they made so that we can be free. Following this ceremony, we'll participate in half-hour sessions with our attending veterans so that we can learn more about the service to our nation, how the experience shaped who they are, and a little about the times in which they served as middle school students who will soon take the reins of this great nation. We do this because of John F. Kennedy said, "As we express our gratitude, we must never forget that the highest appreciation is not the other words, but to live by them."
Hi, my name is Tyler Smith. I'm the middle school government president. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, and please remain standing for the Star-Spangled Banner. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
John Meal served as a staff sergeant in the U.S. Air Force from 1969 to 1972. He served 2 tours of duty in Vietnam. Mr. Meal is also a former headmaster of Cape Fear Academy and my grandfather.
My grandfather, Mike Crenshaw, served in the U.S. Army as a first lieutenant in the Big Red One, the 1st Division from 1963 to 1966. Mr. Crenshaw has 1 graduate and 4 grandchildren currently enrolled at CFA.
Joseph Carpenter served in the U.S. Army during the Vietnam War from 1968 to 1972. He served in the MAC-V Advisory Team 55, 4th Corps in Can Than, Republic of South Vietnam, where he achieved the rank of specialist.
John Nelms joined the U.S. Army in 1987, attaining the rank of sergeant. He served in Bosnia, Desert Storm, and Desert Shield, and Afghanistan. Sergeant Nelms is also a Wilmington police officer.
Ryan Chin has served 8 years in the U.S. Army National Guard as a Specialist E4 and served our nation in Operation Iraqi Freedom. Samick Lamb was a U.S. Army medical evacuation pilot in Vietnam from 1966 to 1969. As an active member of the North Carolina Vietnam Helicopter Pilots Association, Dr. McLam is instrumental in arranging the 2 Vietnam-era helicopters for our ceremony today. Ed Hughes, call sign Hornet, was commissioned as an officer in the 116th Assault Helicopter Company stationed in Chu Lai, Vietnam. He flew over 1,200 combat hours, participating in Lam Son 719. He retired from the U.S. Army in 1992 after 24 years of service. He, too, is a member of the North Carolina Vietnam Helicopter Pilots Association.
Al Paquette served in the U.S. Army from 1958 to 1970, rising to the rank of Staff Sergeant. He was stationed in West Germany during the Cold War, served during the Cuban Missile Crisis, and in the Vietnam War. He is also a beloved former employee of Cape Fear Academy.
Roy Lettieri was a sergeant in the United States Marine Corps. He served during the Korean War. He is also a highly regarded employee at Cape Fear Academy.
Joe Stanley served in the United States Navy for 20 years, from 1976 to 1997. He retired as Chief Quartermaster of the Shipboard Navigation. He served in the Persian Gulf War, Grenada, and Lebanon. He is also the District 5 Commander of the Veterans of Foreign Wars and the Post Commander of VFW Post 2573 here in Wilmington. He was essential in lining up many of the veterans joining us today.
Justin Cornegay served in the U.S. Army Air Corps and the European Theater of Operations during World War II. He was a nose gunner on a B-24 Liberator stationed in Italy.
George Van Veekoven served in the U.S. Air Force. As a member of the famed 8th Air Force during World War II, Mr. Van Veekoven served in intelligence gathering operations stationed in England. His primary duty included the briefing and debriefing of the B-17 crews for each mission. In the latter part of the war, he was part of the food drop to war-ravaged citizens of Holland. In his more than 30 years of service, he participated in World War II, the Korean War, and the Vietnam War.
Ilario Pontano enlisted in the United States Marine Corps at age 17 and fought in the First Gulf War in 1991. He went on to become a sergeant and lead an elite scout sniper team in support of UN peacekeeping operations in ex-Yugoslavia. He earned his BA in business in 3 years at night while working as a commodity trader for Goldman Sachs by day. He went on to start interactive media businesses until he witnessed the terrorist attacks of September 11, 2001. As the World Trade Center collapsed, a building where Pontano had worked, number 4 World Trade Center, was destroyed, as were many of his colleagues. Mr. Pontano instantly worked to rejoin the Marines, and, after seeking age waivers, he earned a commission in the U.S. Marine Corps at the age of 32. He successfully led a platoon of infantry Marines in the first fight for Fallujah, Iraq in 2004. After receiving an honorable discharge, Mr. Pontano continued serving his community as a sheriff's deputy, business consultant, Red Cross volunteer, and a veterans advocate. He has produced books, films, and speeches to raise money for veterans charities.
Ryan Leonard is currently serving our nation as a second-class petty officer and Master of Arms in the United States Navy. He joined the Navy in 2012 and is currently stationed in Guantanamo Bay, Cuba. Later this month, he will be transferred to the USS Ronald Reagan aircraft carrier stationed in Japan. Ryan is also the son of Debbie Leonard, who works in the business office at Cape Fear Academy.
Vivian Shever and Norma Luther are Gold Star Mothers. The American Gold Star Mothers is an organization formed shortly after World War I to provide support for mothers who have lost their sons or daughters in war. The name comes from a custom of families of servicemen hanging banners called service flags in the window of their homes.
John Weinkauf is a native North Carolinian who joined the United States Army in 1967, serving for 3 years in Korea. In 1981, he joined the North Carolina National Guard and served for 17 years as an MP, retiring in 1998 as a platoon sergeant. Officer Weinkauf served for 30 years with the Wilmington Police Department, retiring in 2001. He's the president of the Wilmington chapter of the North Carolina Military Historical Society.
Bob Cook, a native of Brooklyn, New York, joined the Marine Corps early in 1961 and after boot camp at Parris Island, South Carolina, attended the Corps' Engineer School at Camp Lejeune. He served with the 2nd Marine Division at Camp Lejeune, Vieques Island, Puerto Rico, and Guantanamo Bay, Cuba. After military service, he went on to a career in telecommunications. Bob is a member of the Marine Corps League, the North Carolina Military Historical Society, and is president of the Cape Fear Civil War Round Table here in Wilmington. He's also the author of Wild, Wicked Wartime Wilmington, a social history of the town during the Civil War.
Ed, or Hoot Gibson, is a native North Carolinian born in the Marine Corps family at Camp Lejeune. His father retired from the Corps when he was 16. Mr. Gibson served for the Coast Guard Reserves from 1985 to 1993. And Officer Gibson retired as a policeman after 30 years of service from 1978 to 2008. He's an active member in the North Carolina Military Historical Society chapter here in Wilmington.
Marcus Sky Lewis enlisted in the United States Army in 2005, serving in Iraq and Afghanistan. He completed his service as a captain and served as a contractor in 2012. He is also my cousin.
Ronald Holmes enlisted in the United States Marines in February 1989 and retired in April 2010 after over 20 years of honorable service. He served in the Gulf War, Operation Desert Shield, and Desert Storm from 1990 to 1991, Operation Restore Hope in Somalia and in Yemen. Additionally, he served in Afghanistan, Africa, and Iraq as a diplomatic advisor from 2010 to 2015. He has been deployed on 12 different naval ships and has parachuted over 300 times. He retired as a Master Sergeant in the United States Marine Corps.
Frank Raley enlisted in the United States Navy and entered active duty shortly after high school in 1964. He served during the Cold War as part of a patrol squadron whose chief responsibilities were to track Russian submarines off of the coast of the U.S., European, and Mediterranean coasts. He was honorably discharged from the Navy in 1970.
Lieutenant Colonel Forkin, a native of Cherry Hill, New Jersey, was commissioned a second lieutenant via the Platoon Leaders Class Ground Program in 1993. In August of 2000, he was transferred to the U.S. Naval Academy, where he served as a military law and leadership instructor. In July of 2003, Lieutenant Colonel Forkin was assigned as the Deputy Staff Judge Advocate, U.S. Marine Corps Forces. He served as the Judge Advocate for Regimental Combat Team 1 during Operation Iraqi Freedom II and the Battle of Fallujah.
Robert Copeland enlisted in the United States Army, serving with the 5th Special Forces Group Airborne in the Republic of Vietnam. As a first lieutenant, he earned the Bronze Star for Valor. He completed his services in the Army Reserves as a company commander in 1974.
Frances Samples is a Specialist E4 in the United States Army. She enlisted in 2010 and serves as a medic in the 120th Infantry. She was deployed to Afghanistan in support of Operation Enduring Freedom in 2012 through 2013. Her peacetime operations include joint training operations with multiple other NATO forces, like the Danish and the Canadian forces, as well as serving on the state of North Carolina's Rapid Reaction Force.
The veterans we honor today came from all walks of life, but shared several fundamental qualities. They possessed courage, pride, determination, selflessness, honor, and dedication to duty. Many of them didn't ask to leave their homes to fight on distant battlefields. They didn't go to war because they loved fighting. They volunteered to be a part of something bigger than themselves. They were ordinary people who responded in extraordinary ways. They rose to our nation's call because they wanted to protect the country which has given us all so much. Let's talk for a second about one of these virtues, courage. The bravery to go to hard places to do hard things, all because their country needed them to. As Karl von Clausewitz once said, courage, above all things, is the first quality of a warrior. Today our troops continue to make sacrifices, and more patriotic men and women step forward each day and say, I'm ready to serve. Certainly, without our veterans and current members of the armed forces, America would not be America. Veterans have given us freedom, security, and the greatest nation on earth. The writer, George Orwell, made a moving comment about civilians' attitude to the military when he said, people sleep peacefully in their beds at night because rough men stand ready to do violence on their behalf. We thank you for your service. We will now proceed to the classrooms.
Is that what? Headed for Spanish Room?
Yeah.